fall sale is actually the first sale of the tax sale cycle. Any properties that have at least 3 property tax installments that are delinquent as of July 1st every year get certified for the treasurer's auction in the fall. Lake County's is usually sometime in September. Other counties kind of vary, but Lake County is usually in September. So the starting bid for that auction is the amount of taxes owed, also known as the certificate value. So if it says certificate value in your sheet, if it's a treasurer's sale, that's going to be your minimum bid. So if it's $10,000 of taxes owed, the minimum bid is $10,000, and then it's just an auction at that point. There's a 1-year redemption period. So if you don't know what a redemption period is, it basically is the amount of time that any party can pay the taxes current and take back the property. So that starts the day after the sale and it ends a year later. So that is the time where the homeowners can try to save their property, basically. The sale coming up, which starts in May, is the spring sale. It's called a commissioner sale. Anything that does not sell in the fall sale gets pushed over to the spring sale. There's some exceptions, there's some donations, but pretty much everything on that fall sale that doesn't sell goes to the spring sale. Where the minimum bid for Lake County goes from goes from what the taxes owed are to $500. So if you have a $1 million property and the taxes are $250,000, and this has happened, your minimum bid is $500. Probably won't stay there, but that's where it starts. Okay. This year it is an online auction. Typically prior to COVID, this sale would have been in person in the Lake County Government Center. And if you think this, if you think there's a lot of people in this room, hit up a commissioner sale in Lake County. It is shoulder to shoulder. That's how many people go to this thing. So, but it is fun because the minimum bid's $500, so you're getting arguably the property for $500. LaPorte was last week. It's 100 or 200. Every county has a minimum bid for this sale. But for today's purposes, Lake County is $500. So unlike the treasure sale, there is a 120-day redemption period. That does not mean 4 months. Okay? If you're thinking it's a 4-month redemption period, it's not. It is exactly 120 days, and the reason they do that is because this Indiana statute says specifically it is 120 days, and you have to notify them. So when it comes to noticing, which we'll get to in a minute, you have to make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, how are we registering? Registration for Lake County ends on Thursday. Don't wait until Thursday. There are a lot of steps. The first time I did this, just for myself, because I always register just so I know the process and I can come teach you guys, it took me half an hour to put everything together. And it should. There's a lot of documents that you have to go through. And what Lake County, because of the volume they will get, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 applications, if you mess up your application, you're out, okay? We've had clients who have been rejected for not putting a phone number, not putting an address, not printing their name next to the signature, things that are absolutely required in the instructions, but they don't do, and they're out. You gotta wait till next year, okay? So please, 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 if you register, read it, take your time. There's no time limit on the amount of time you have to register. Read it, take your time, make sure you check off every box. Okay? You can't have any property taxes due. Mr. Petrides asked me earlier about that question, and it used to be you couldn't have taxes that were subject to a tax sale. They changed it. Now you can't owe any property taxes. So if the sale is May 9th this year and you haven't paid your November installment, you are not eligible for the sale. You have to get them current. Okay? So presuming none of those things are true, you are eligible for the sale, and there is a $600 registration fee. How that number works is that 500 of it is what I call a pre-bid. Okay, so I told you the minimum bid is $500. Your pre-bid for $500 is due at the time you register, but if you don't buy anything, you get that back. Okay, if you do buy something, it acts as a credit. So you buy something and you win that bid for $500. You've already paid that $500 of registration. You don't owe the county any more money at that point. If you buy something for $1,000, you get a $500 credit. You can see where this is going. So it acts as a credit. There is a $100 tattle fee. This is non-refundable. If you are accepted into the tax sale, that $100 is gone. Whether you buy something or not, it goes to the county. You only have to pay this once per year, though. So I told you there's 2 sales during the year. You only have to pay it once. So if you pay it now, you don't have to pay it again in the fall. So, and if you already paid it in the fall, if you participated in the last set, you don't have to pay it now. So it is a one-time fee. once you're logged in, or I'm sorry, once you've gotten all of your information down and you've successfully registered, once you've been approved, they will email you login instructions. So you do register through ZeusAuction.com, but that's not where the sale takes place. The sale is at which we'll get to in a second, but it's www.onyxelectronics.com. Okay, you'll find the lists there for Lake County. You'll find some general information about the sale, but primarily that is where the auction will run through. And once approved, they will email you a link as to how to access that a week or two before the sale. Okay, what does it take to register? Can you see that? Oh yeah, perfect. So if you're registering as an individual, and you've never done this before, and you're registering by yourself, I probably would, because it's a little more simple than trying to register as an entity. So you have to complete a IRS W-9 form. You can do that online through Zeus Auction. If you have no account yet, once you create an account, it will ask you for information to fill in a W-9. If you do have an account, it's just going to ask you during your registration process to sign your name electronically, and that is how you do the W-9. You have to have the following documents as well. You have to have the front side and back side of your either driver's license.
May I take a screenshot?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So yeah, feel free to take pictures, guys, or if you want, if you shoot me an email after, I'll send you the slideshow. But yeah, feel free to take any pictures you want. Thank you for asking, I appreciate it. So you do have to have the front and back side of your driver's license or photo or otherwise state ID, right? Please don't scan it. I tried scanning my ID several different ways and it never really works. It never comes out very clear. Everybody have a smartphone?
Mm-hmm.
So if you got a smartphone, you can take a picture of it with your phone, front side, back side, and especially iPhones, you can convert it to a PDF and just email it to yourself. Comes out clear, comes out exactly the way you need it to. Comes out as one document too, which is nice. You have to have a signed bidder contract. We're going to see it here in a second, but when we get on to ZeusAuction.com, there are 3 downloadable PDFs that you have to download in order to register. So that's one of the things that you have to sign and go through and upload. There's a sworn affidavit. Without really going into too much of it, a few years ago we had some bad actors who owed a bunch of property taxes and registered for the sale, and so now the sale has gotten a lot more high level of scrutiny as to who registers. So one of the things that you're signing is that you don't owe taxes, you're not bidding on behalf of somebody who owes taxes. Basically, you agree that you're complying with all the rules and regulations of a tax sale. Okay, you have to put your last 8 years of residency. So if you, regardless of when it was, just go back 8 years. And again, we'll go through the form in a minute. The other thing that most people get caught up on is last 8 years of employment history. If you have not worked for 8 years, that's okay. But let's say you worked for, I don't know, Botchkoff Law from 2017 to 2022. But you never worked before that. That's okay. You just have to put 2014 to 2017, no job. Now you've completed the 8 years. We have to put something. If you leave it blank, you will be rejected. All of these things need to be printed off and combined into one PDF. You only get one chance to upload your registration form. So all the documents we're going to go through, you have to print off, you have to put it into a PDF, and you have to upload it through ZeusAuction.com. Yeah?
So that includes the driver's license picture goes.
Yes, it does. Yep.
Totally forgot to do that today,
Okay.
so I'm gonna head out, but thank you.
That's okay. Well, I mean, feel free, you can,
There's like, it's one and done, right?
and you can register again if you want.
I can register,
You can register tomorrow.
I can register tomorrow.
Yeah, they won't let you correct it.
Okay, but I
so you can register
with the
tomorrow
same
again.
Social security number and identity and everything, and it's fine. Okay. Okay.
So stick
Okay.
around, because we got more. No problem. No problem. Don't worry, you will not, so let me put it this way, just so you don't feel bad for screwing it up. They had 2,000 applicants, I think, a ballpark last year. I think only like 600 got in. Okay, so the majority of people get rejected. That's why we're going through it. Because they screw something up. So our goal here is to make sure that doesn't happen to you guys. Okay, registering as an LLC. What we're doing when we register as an LLC, you need a W-9. If your LLC has an EIN number, which it probably should for corporate purposes, you have to fill out the W-9 with your federal EIN number. You have to have the same documents. You have to have the driver's license, front and back. You have to have the bidder contract, signed, sworn affidavit. residency requirement, employer requirement, but then there's these additional documents that you need. You need to have an operating agreement, right? It's gotta be an Indiana operating agreement. So if you are an entity in Illinois and you register here as a foreign entity, you cannot use your Illinois operating agreement. You have to have one that's for Indiana specific, okay? Yeah.
So, like to register, so is it just easier to register under your personal name and then once you do buy something, then just switch it over to your LLC?
You
recommend-
can, you can, here's a caveat though, you have to do it, and again, not picking on you, but you have to do it, your LLC can't owe taxes. So you personally can't sign up, and then once you have the taxes, give it to your LLC which owes taxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yes, you could do that, yeah. Other things that you're gonna need, you need to have an Indiana certificate of existence. Key thing about the certificate of existence, you can get it online through Indiana Secretary of State website, but it is only valid for 30 days. So if you downloaded it 32 days ago and you go to register tomorrow, you will be rejected because it is now expired, okay? So if you have one, make sure that in the bottom right-hand corner, it's gonna tell you when the expiration date is. So you make sure that it's not expired and then you upload it. If you go do it tomorrow, you're fine. It's like $6 or something. Sit down. You have to list all of your members. I told you, they're becoming hyper scrutinized on exactly what it takes to register. So if there are 6 members of your LLC, all 6 members have to do this. Residency, employment, photo driver licenses, okay? There are no exceptions, and you have to disclose every single member of the LLC. Okay, right now, I'm working on an LLC that's partnering with another LLC. Okay, so now I need LLC, all their information, I need all this LLC's information, I need a partnership agreement that discloses who everybody is, because the key here is making sure that everyone who's bidding at these sales legally is able to. Because just because you get in, and just because you get tax certificates, does not mean that in 3, 4, 5 months, the county can't discover what you did if you are doing something in bad faith and try and reject it, okay? They can go back to the sale and undo it, yeah.
I think I just went to, I guess, will be a commissioner's sale in Port County, Texas, last week.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have any of this process. Is there a reason why it's so different?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that, but yes, LaPorte County is different. But Lake County, again, because of the history of a few, kind of ruined everybody else, because now it's hyper scrutinized how we do this. Okay? Articles of organization, you can get those online for free, but you do have to upload them, okay? And then same thing, you have to pay that $600 when you register. Again, everything has to be combined into one PDF. The corporation is basically the same set of instructions, you have to do all the same things. There's just some differences between the terminology. Corporations don't have members and managers, they have principals, they have presidents and secretaries. So the terminology changes, but the requirements are the same. So you have to have corporate bylaws, not an operating agreement. You have to have the same documents. Yeah.
I was wondering, if you do mess up on this, how long do you know before you reject it?
You won't. You will not know by the end of the redemption, by the end of the sign-up period. You'll probably know in May, because and I say that, and before, that's a really frustrating fact. If you screw up, you're not gonna know until it's far too late. But remember, there's 2,000 people. There are 3 women in the tax department that are the ones reviewing all of these, okay? There's not enough time for them to do it. So they wait until registration ends to do it. So that's why we have to be careful with this. You have to go through everything very specific. Every other county, because of the volume, you can sign up to the day before almost. Right? Lake County is different for those reasons. Corporations have, just like I said, different terminology for the documents, but it's all essentially the same. You have to list all your shareholders. You have to have a corporate bylaw that you disclose that shows who all participates and what their interests are. Again, combine everything, upload it as one. Questions on any of the registration stuff? Yeah.
Every year you have to go through this procedure?
Every year, yep. Yeah, registration is, the process changes a little, but it is the same process.
Okay, so for the paddle fee registration, you had mentioned that it's a one-time fee. Now, is that a yearly?
One-time annual fee.
One-time
Yes, the
annual.
paddle fee is annual
That's-
fee, yeah.
Gotcha.
So if you made a mistake like this gentleman mentioned here, you have to redo it and just do the amendment or whatever it is.
There's no amendment, you just re-register the same way you did the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. because you're gonna have to pay the same $600, but you should get all 600 your first time back. You don't, but you should. But then you just pay it again the second time you register. Yeah.
If you register for the treasurer's auction, do you have to register again for the spring one?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, you have to
So it's
register for every
okay.
sale. Yeah,
So if you wanna do both, you gotta do it twice a year then?
correct.
Okay.
And just to clarify, so like, if you get rejected, you get your paddle feedback as well as the 500?
There were some questions about whether or not you got paddle feedback, but ultimately, yes.
Okay,
Because the purpose of the paddle fee is for successfully registering.
yeah,
That's what the statute says. So if you don't successfully register, you should get your paddle feedback.
okay.
Alright. Okay, registering for the county. I told you, www.zeusauction.com. This is where you register. If you don't have a zeusauction.com, which I'm guessing most of you probably don't, you have to click on the blue link on the right that says create an account. It takes about 90 seconds to create an account. Name, phone number, email, things like that. Once you create an account, you'll have to fill out the W-9 and talk to you about. So if you're signing up as an individual, just again, name, address, social, and then that's pretty much it. So you will do that when you create an account. If you already have an account, you click on this little login tab once it's created, and it brings us to this page. So everybody's here for the Lake County auction. So what I did is just type in the word Lake in the search bar. You don't even have to hit enter, it pops right up. Okay, so you can see there's a little yellow tab for clicking to register, costs $600. So you click on that $600 yellow tab, and it brings you to this page. I would stop here temporarily until you see, me pointing at the screen doesn't help you guys. So there's a $600 registration fee, W-9 or W-8. W-8 is if you're not an American citizen. The documents that you have to download. These are those 3 documents that I told you you had to download. So there's registration requirements, the bidder contract, and the tax tax warrant affidavit. You have to download all 3 of these, okay? We're gonna go through them one by one. I would stop here, just in case, if you click register and then you're filling out the paperwork, maybe you get timed out, gets a little confusing. But before you click on register, I would make sure you have all of the documents at least sorted away. Okay, so you click on those 3 one at a time, it's a clickable link, you download those PDFs. This is the first one. So this is 1 page of the, I believe, 4-page bidder contract. I'm sorry, these are the instructions, apologize. The bidder contract's next. So the instructions are here. So, remember I said, fill in 8 years worth of addresses, okay? So this is what I did, because no, you don't get to know where I've lived for the past 8 years. So obviously you're gonna fill in the location, street address, but everything else is gonna be the same. So from June 2019 to the present, I put one place, November 2018 to June 2019, I lived another place, and then July 2012 to November 2018 was satisfying my 8 years. Okay, even if you're a tenant, no, you don't have to own the house. If you're a tenant, that's fine, just put the address down. If you don't fill out 8 years, you will get rejected, okay? So make sure we're filling this out all the way through. And every box has to be filled horizontally. Okay, 8 years of employers. So from October 2018 to the present, I worked for Kavachkov Law Inc. I've also worked for Indiana Title Network Company. And then from October 2012 to October 2018, I still work for Kavachkov Law Inc., but at a different address. Okay, so even if this is a situation, you have to fill it out. So now if I had not worked at that different address and I had left it here, I've only got October 2018 to the present, but that's not 8 years. So what you have to do is, let's go back, what was that, 2014? So I would say January 2014 to October 2018, no job. And just put no job, no address, no zip code. Just put not in. Okay, because you have to fill it out, even if you didn't have one. Okay? Yeah.
What if you were self-employed?
You put self-employed, you put your name as name of employer. I would just put Mike Kavachkov self-employed.
Okay.
And then you still put your address, your city, your state exit,
Dates.
and the dates. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this page?
I have a pretty nitpicky question, but like, I don't know if it matters. If I worked for, say, like, I worked at a national forest, do I put the U.S. Forest Service and then the address I worked at, or do I put like the national forest I worked at and then the address?
I would put the address you worked at.
Like the address I worked at, but do I list it as like the do I list it as like the agency?
No,
Or
I would just
the-
put the address that you physically want to. What they're looking for is they wanna make sure that you don't work for me and I'm telling you to go buy tax sale properties. My tax sale properties that I owe tens of thousands of dollars on. That's what they're looking for. Okay.
Okay.
I don't think that company is probably in the tax sale business, but you know, but that's what they're looking for, so. Questions on the address or the employer history? Right, okay, tax sale affidavit, please read this thoroughly. Two reasons, looks like one of the boxes got thrown up, but number one, the very top of the page, or top of the signature panel, says, I acknowledge that anyone who knowingly or intentionally provides false information commits perjury, a level 6 felony. Who knows what a felony is? Nothing good, right? Let's not commit felonies. So if this is not true, do not sign it, do not submit it, get your tax current, we'll go on to the next one, okay? But you're gonna sign it, you're gonna sign it in 2 places, you're gonna write your name in 2 places, and you're gonna date it. Don't forget all of those things. If you forget one, they will probably reject you for not filling out the form completely, okay? But read this thoroughly, because this is gonna tell you exactly what you can and cannot do. Bidder contract. So I put a square above this section here on the top, and pretty much the point of this is if you're registered as an LLC, you can't do your own noticing. It's considered practicing law without a license, okay? So if you sign up as an individual and you want to try your hand at doing the notices, sure. I still don't recommend it, but legally you can. But if you register your company, you legally cannot do it on behalf of your LLC. You have to hire an attorney. There are companies out there who offer service for tax sale noticing. Unless they are a law firm, please do not hire them because they also are not allowed to do this. Sign it, date it, print your name. Okay? Again, please read the bidder contract. Okay? Because it's going to tell you there are rules and regulations that we're going to go through, but it lays them all out one by one as to exactly what you can and cannot do with the sale, after the sale, and up until the point of your tax deed is recorded.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you said as an LLC you can't do what?
So once you buy a certificate, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. Once you buy a certificate, you have to notify people with an interest in that property that you purchased, that you purchased it. That's called tax sale noticing. That's what our firm and a lot of other attorneys will do for tax sale purposes. You can't do that noticing if you bought it as an LLC. If you individually buy it, you can. But it's considered legal practice, and so you can't do that as an individual for it, even if it's your entity. You still can't do it for the entity.
So you have to hire an attorney to do that for you?
If you're an entity, yeah, LLC, corporation, partnership, yes.
Thank you.
If you're an individual, do you recommend hiring an attorney to do it?
I would, we're gonna go through why, and I always put this disclaimer, it doesn't have to be me. There are a lot of attorneys that do this, but please do hire someone, because there are a lot of ways to screw this up. The statute says one thing on how to do this noticing, but that's not even half of it. There's a lot more case law that tells you what you should do if the mail comes back, if the person died, if it's vacant land. There's a lot of different rules that the statute doesn't cover, and if you don't do them, you don't get the deed. Okay? So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so once you have all your documents together, we've clicked on that register button from the last page, and it brings us to this page. You're going to fill out your information here, fill out your address, fill out city, state, zip. It should autofill your email login, username, and password. And then this is where you're going to just write your name. If you're signing up as an individual, you're going to write your name for the W-9. Next box beneath that is the bidder agreement. This is where you're uploading your bidder agreement. Remember, all in one, okay? So it has to be everything together. All 3 of those documents, your driver's license, everything has to be uploaded all at once. Proof of eligibility, this is where you're, again, for the probably 17th time, affirming that you don't know property taxes and you swear on the lease of perjury that you are not committing a tax sale fraud. So I don't know why I cut it off. There's a little blue button. You just click register, submit in the bottom right-hand corner. Once you're done, brings you to this page. So as long as you fill out everything correctly and you click submit, it's gonna bring you to this page. You're not in yet, okay? You still have to wait. So registration ends Thursday. You will probably not find out until May. I mean, just being realistic, you're probably not gonna get an answer. You'll get an email, approved or denied, but that probably won't happen for at least a month. Okay, so just kind of sit tight. Don't call the tax sale department, because they're gonna get 1,000 calls, and the answer's gonna be the same. We're not done yet. Remember, there are 3 women doing 2,000 applications in the middle of the rest of their jobs. So please don't bother them. You will, I promise you will get an email that says in or out. And they're not gonna be able to give you a different answer, so. Okay, but we're still not done registering. If you look at the bottom, there's a link to pay that registration fee. They're gonna charge you $1 for doing it electronically, so it's technically $601. No, you don't get that $1 back. It's a convenience fee for doing it online. So you click on that, link to pay, you pay with an e-check, you cannot use a debit card, you cannot use a credit card. You cannot go and pay in person. The only way to do it is to basically do an ACH out of your bank account. Okay, so you're gonna click on pay with e-check. It's gonna bring you to fill out your routing number, your bank account number, the name of the account. When you pay your fee, if Mike Kalashnikov is registering personally, Kalashnikov law can't be the account it comes from. So if you have a business account, please don't use it to do two things: pay the registration fee or to pay the bid fee. Can't do either of those. If Mike Kalashnikov buys it, Mike Kalashnikov pays for it out of his personal account, and vice versa. If Kalashnikov law buys it, Kalashnikov law pays for it out of his business account. Okay? What will happen? You will, one, get denied from the sale if you do it for the register. You will, two, they will not honor any of your bids. When you get 17 properties and they're all steals and you pay for the wrong account, they're all canceled. They are also currently taking the position that if you don't do it correctly, you're ineligible for all future sales. So let's make sure we're using the right account. Yeah,
What if both names is on the business account? What if it's the business and your personal name?
doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's a business name on the account, don't use it. Okay? Unless you register both as a business and a person, but I wouldn't even go that far. I would just play it safe. Okay, LaPorte County, this was last week, I just never really got rid of it. It's a very different registration process. I know you mentioned it's basically you go to SRI Services, click on the link. This is more for comedic relief at this point. You create an account, you put in your personal name, you put in your EIN number, you click submit, and you're done. That's LaPorte County. So it's not the same at all. So that's I'm sure the experience you guys went through. That is the difference between the two counties for registration. And the best part, like the next day if you're in. So it's a pretty quick process. Again, there's not nearly as many bidders and not nearly as many properties. Okay, how are we preparing for the sale? We've registered, we're in. You can download this list at onyxelectronics.com. There are two lists. There is what's called the new list, which has 521 properties. There is a repeaters list, which has, at least when I uploaded this, 8,981 parcels. So what are we doing here? These lists have homes, multi-units, vacant land, commercial property, industrial property, everything. If it's in Lake County and it's delinquent, it's on the list, okay? What is the difference between the two lists? The new list means, remember I told you, these things get certified for the sale July 1st every year. They get put up for auction at the treasurer's auction in the fall, and then they come to the commissioner's sale, anything that doesn't sell. The new list got certified July 1st, was not sold at the fall treasurer's auction, and is now up for sale for the first time at the commissioner's sale, okay? The repeaters list got certified July 1st, went up for the treasurer's sale in the fall, went through the commissioner's sale next spring, no one bought it, got certified again for July 1st, went back up through the treasurer's auction, no one bought it, and is now going up for the commissioner's sale for at least the second time. The repeaters list has a count list, or a sale count column, and it's going to tell you how many sales these properties have been through. So when you're doing your due diligence, how many people are going to buy something that's been through 14 years of sales? Probably not, right? 2 sales, 3 sales, 4 sales, maybe. There are a lot of properties. I have had clients who will buy gems on the repeater list because there are so many properties you can't do your due diligence on all of them. You can't. So don't disregard the repeaters list. It is the valuable list. It is not as, I would say, arguably valuable as the new list because those are first-time comers, but there are some good stuff on there. You just have to make sure you do your due diligence. Please be thorough. If I haven't been clear on that, please be thorough. Your due diligence is going to be the next part of this presentation, and it's huge. So let's take a look at what we got for $500. Okay, these are actual purchases that clients have made for $500 in the past. Who's going to buy this house for $500? We've got some trees. We've got, I'll give you a better view here. We've got landscaping. We've got brick siding. Well, 3 and 2 here. Everybody's going to buy this for $500, right? Mm-hmm. I had a client who bought this address, 3500 West 19th Ave. But when we're doing tax sales, we don't do it by address. okay? So he bought this address, got it for $500, was pumped, okay? Problem is, if anybody know what the GIS is? Anybody not know? It's okay to know GIS. So if you Google Lake County, Indiana GIS, it is a satellite overview for each individual parcel in Lake County. But we don't look by address, because when you look by address, this is what it looks like. It puts a big blue outline around the property that you're buying. When you look by address, this is what pops up. You guys can't see where I'm going with this yet? That's okay. But there are two addresses with 3500 West 19th. There's two. And if you look above each one, there's what I call PIN number, a parcel identification number. Starts with 45-08-07. That is what you need to do your due diligence by. Because when you look at it by address, there's two properties, okay? This person bought it by address, got it for $500. Problem is he didn't look at the parcel number. What they sold was the parcel number. You can see the house, that really beautiful house with the blue shutters that he thought he had for $500. But he didn't. He had this little 10-foot strip behind it, right? This happens all the time. I get calls weekly after the tax sale. I had one client who got 10 grand on the commissioner sale last year, bought 6 properties, 5 of them were this. They look by address. Please don't do that, because this is what will happen. I would say the majority of the list is going to be stuff like this. So you have to look by PIN number. You have to use the GIS. If you don't use the GIS to do some due diligence, please just don't bid. Just don't bid at the sale, because this is going to happen to at least one person this year, at least. Okay? So that's why we use the parcel number, not the address. That's also why we use the GIS. What other stuff have clients bought? This client bought half of a garage. What does that mean? I don't know. You own half of, hopefully like the lawnmower and stuff is on that side of the garage because you bought half of it. So no, you can't do anything with that, okay? This person bought 2/3 of a house, so we're getting better. Still not the full house, but at least it's something. This person bought the middle of a house, yeah.
So say you do buy like an empty lot or whatever the case is, legally, are you in possession of whatever's on that lot, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you buy, I had someone buy somebody's pool last year, and went, shit. But then went, oh wait, they probably want their pool. So they just contacted the homeowner for the pool and said, hey, I got this for $600, will you give me $1,600? And they're like, yeah, we will. So it worked out for them, but yeah.
Another question too,
Yeah.
so like, maybe this might be, some type of, actually a good thing, like say if you buy a lot next to a house, just an empty lot, can you resell it to the next one of the homeowners next door?
You can, yeah. I'm not saying that it's gonna be a disaster if this happens, but you're gonna be scrambling, right? So yeah, my guy with the pool figured it out. The 10-foot strip guy buying a house, probably not so much, okay?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What are some of the price points for some of those pictures you're showing right now?
You mean, what did they get it for, or?
Yeah.
Probably $500, because most people probably didn't bid on it. Yeah. There have been some horror stories where there have been bidding wars on commercial property, and I think one guy bought it, I think he put there's a bidding war up to $700,000. Nobody could understand why no one was bidding on this thing. It's because it was swampland behind a Menards. They thought it was the Menards. $700,000. So, fortunately, I think in that situation, the county just said, well, obviously this is a mistake. We're not going to make you pay it. But you're paying for like 5 years or something, which they have every right to do, because the other option is you owe $700,000. So that worked out for him, but let's not bank on that. Yeah.
Is some of that because the GIS mapping hasn't been updated in 20, 30 years?
Nope.
It's purposely that way?
It's not purposely that way. The areas that we're looking at are primarily Gary.
Yeah.
There are a lot of transactions that happen that are just quick claim deeds, handshake deals, cash deals. No title companies get involved. And so the reason this happens is maybe they don't know exactly what their legal description is. Maybe this guy was lot 33, 32, and 34, and they didn't realize, and they only conveyed the middle. Maybe a family was fighting and decided we're just going to screw the younger brother and give him the middle house. You never know. No, these things are not accidents. They're there for a reason. Somebody screwed up somewhere, and now that's what you're buying. Okay.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a game. Okay, so we understand what we're looking for. We understand what we're definitely not looking for. the great thing about the list, the last 2 years, that, hopefully attribute this to Don Granzy, because I think this was his idea, is now we have class codes, okay? So your Excel spreadsheet has what's called a class code. Indiana has a class code system that characterizes every single property. This is just one page of it, okay? So you can see 500 through 509 is zoned residential, but it's vacant land. 510, what we got? 510 through 520, 510 through 535. That's all residential with something on it. Okay, so if you only care about a 3-family dwelling that's not unplatted, not in a subdivision, all you're looking for is class code 535. Okay? If you don't want vacant land, you just take out, when we go through the list, we're going to show you how, you just take out anything that's that's 500 to 509. Now they're off the list. Okay? So it's going to reduce your list tremendously. I think when I did this last time, they were on the first list, it was maybe 100 single-family residences, and then 1,100 single-family residences on the repeaters list. But that shows you there are 1,100 single-family residences on the repeaters list. So the assets are there. Okay? Again, this is just for Lake County purposes, not the class code. The class code is statewide. But for today's purposes, we're just talking about Lake County. So what you also can do in the Excel spreadsheet, like I said, you can sort out class code. You can look by city, you can look by zip code if you're really into Glen Park area and you want to get rid of non-Glen Park zip codes, you can. You can do Gary only, you can eliminate all of Gary. But it's a huge key, or a huge feature of using Excel, because it's going to allow you to seriously reduce your due diligence time. Because I promise you that 75%, if not more, is vacant land. And if you don't want it, you can eliminate it the first 5 minutes that you're doing your due diligence. Okay, so we have our list. We know what we're looking for. I told you need to look for Lake County, Indiana GIS. If you Google it, it's the first thing that pops up. This guy right here, Lake Indiana GIS portal. Okay, so you click on that. I always tell people to use the desktop version. There are more features available to you. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your tablet, but it doesn't show as much. And if you're looking for specific information, you might not have access to it. Okay, so we click on desktop, brings you to this page. There is a search bar, so you click on the search key up top, it pulls up this little dialog on the left-hand side, and it will automatically default your search by parcel number, PIN number, okay? So when I'm going through the list, I got on this side of the screen my GIS, I got on this side of the screen my whittled down Excel spreadsheet, I'm just copy and pasting the parcel over to the left. And that way you can kind of really burn through the list and see what you're looking for. Okay. The GIS is great. The boundary lines, I always get asked about the boundary lines. Boundary lines are not accurate. This is a satellite photo. If it's close, sure. But, if it says it's right down the middle of the house, that's probably pretty close. Okay? I'm not saying it's, if you're like, man, that shed is really close to the boundary line, I can't tell you if that's accurate or not. But if the house is within the boundary line, you should be fine. The thing about the GIS that's not so great, these pictures are from 2018, okay? A lot of these houses are in a little bit more rundown areas and need a lot of rehab. Some of them might have been demolished in the last 3 years. Just because the GIS says it's there does not mean it's there. Okay, so once you've done your due diligence with the GIS and you've whittled down your list, whittle it down even more, okay? You can look at parcel assessment details. So this one we search, there's a little blue link that says parcel assessment details. We click on that. There's a property card that you can click on. This, for the record, is a picture of the house, again, probably from 2018. So you click on property card. This is going to tell you what kind of property it is, at least according to the county last time they did an assessment. So again, if you look, this is from 2018. So top left-hand corner, year this was done, 2018. It does say it's a single-family dwelling. The better information is up here on the right side of the screen. So it tells you the amount of bathrooms, tells you the amount of the kitchen, it tells you 1 kitchen, 2 kitchens, so if it's 2, it's probably a duplex. Tells you the bedroom, tells you the square footage. Again, don't solely rely on this because it's not always entirely accurate, but it gives you a head start. If you don't want a bedroom, 1 bedroom, it's just not in your list, and you see 1 bedroom up there, it's probably accurate. I would move on. Okay. Okay. Next, we've whittled it down even more. We don't want 1 bedrooms. We've got our single-family residences. We've got our list of a few hundred properties that we're looking at. please drive the homes, drive them, drive down the streets, because like I said, these pictures are not current. Drive by them so you can see the condition that they're in, okay? What is helpful is it shows you a picture on the internet or on the assessment page, shows you what the house looked like at one point. So if you're looking at, if it's a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom house, and you're sitting in front of a 3,000 square foot mansion, it's probably not the right house. I would maybe check again. But it does kind of give you a head start as to what you're looking for. Okay, but please drive the homes. There are two ways to do it that I generally advocate for. So there's a mapping software which is free, it's called Batch Geo. You Google Batch Geo. What you can do is put in the addresses that you're looking for. Again, we're not doing due diligence on GIS with an address, but for mapping purposes, Batch Geo will give you the most efficient route to drive these properties. I have a client, gentleman's name is Eric Holzman. He has what's called a mapping product that he sells. I don't know the price yet. I think it's coming out maybe next week. But what it's going to do is something very similar to Batch Geo, except it's going to overlay the directions and icons onto a Google map. And so you just click on it, it's going to pull up the information about the house. So if that's something you're interested in, I can put you in touch with Mr. Holzman. That's fine too. When you're doing this, please have a partner. For a variety of reasons. One, sometimes you're going to be doing a lot of driving. Okay, one, it's going to have somebody to talk to so you don't go stir crazy. Two, they're going to help you with taking notes. They're going to help you with assessing value for what you're looking at versus what it's worth. Tom's really good at that, so if you want to tag him along, I'm sure he would go with it. What you can and cannot do though, you can walk around the properties. Okay. You cannot, and stress this, you cannot go in them. You cannot enter the premises under any circumstances. I don't care if the neighbor says, hey, come on in. It's not worth it, okay? Because you've effectively trespassed, okay? Even the person invites you in. I had a client last year, won the tax sale, got the tax deed, just put a little door knocker on the owner's home saying, hey, we have the tax deed, please let us. We want to talk about maybe renting it to you, but we want to make sure the house is safe. She invited them in, okay? She showed them the house, said, yeah, no, I'm super interested in renting from you. She filled out the application. They left. She was super happy with the price that they were going to offer her. She drove straight to the tax sale department and told the tax sale department that they bullied their way in, forced this application on her, and told her she either signs a lease agreement with them or they're just gonna physically remove her. Okay? So don't trust the kindness, because that happened last year. Fortunately, we were able to get to the bottom of it. We had because they had 4 people there who all said the same thing, So just be careful, be safe. If you get into some kind of confrontation, just leave. None of this is worth it, right? None of this is worth a confrontation. I don't care how good the house is. It's not worth getting into confrontation with an owner. It's not worth getting into confrontation with a neighbor. Neighbors will come by and talk to you. Hey, what are you doing? Especially if you're out there with a little notepad or something. Just talk to them. Be like, well, I'm interested. I'm an investor. I'm interested in buying this property at a tax sale. Just doing some due diligence. Maybe they'll answer some questions for you. Homeowners, I get a little more leery of, because one of 2 things is probably true. One, they've recently found out that they might lose their home, and they probably already know whether or not they're going to be able to pay the taxes. And 2, you're now reminding them that you're taking their home, okay? So just use common sense when you're doing this, okay? I've never really had bad outcome from any of this, but I've got a lot of clients who use common sense. If someone tells you to leave, leave. Just get out. Police will show up, probably, depending on how many you're looking at. Tell them the same thing. They tell you to leave, get out. Right? None of this is worth getting a trespassing charge, getting into a fight, God forbid worse happening. So just kind of use common sense when you're doing this. Why do we walk around the properties? I had a client who bought this house, or was going to buy this house, during their due diligence. The front of the house was fantastic. Completely redone. The neighbors redid the house because they improved their property value. So he walked around the corner and he saw this. The whole back half of the house was burnt out. Okay? This happens all the time. So make sure you're doing your due diligence is key. Okay? So this happens all the time. So just kind of make sure that you're walking around. Again, try not to enter the premises. try not to enter the boundary lines, but you can walk the sidewalks. Okay, how do we bid? So the auction is through onyxelectronics.com. Okay, you will get a special email login, special login instructions that they will email to you once you've successfully registered. That is the only way to bid in this sale. You will not, they've got it narrowed down, so like if you and a partner want to try and log in at the same time, you will not be able to. Okay, one login per bidder ID. So you go to this link. How they do it is it's a live auction through YouTube. They're going to live stream, kind of like we're doing tonight, but they're going to live stream the auction and they're going to go through these one at a time. It takes 3 full days. Because the first list, the 520 properties, almost all of them get bid on. Okay? So the first day itself takes a full day. The second 2 days, you're going through that next 8,500 properties. It's a lot faster, obviously, but it does take usually a full 3 days. So what you're going to also look at is your list when you're bidding. Okay, so bid logically, not emotionally. That's the best way I can put it. Come up with a budget now. Tom's going to talk a little bit about budgeting. It's smart to have a budget now because if we're sitting and bidding against each other, just another $100, pretty soon you're $5,000 past your budget, and the house really probably isn't worth it for you anymore. Okay? So if you come up with budgets while you're calm and not in the heat of things, you know, that's what you stick to. Don't buy too many. So maybe you have a list of 100, and you're like really pumped, and you get them all for $500. What's 500 times 100? What is it, 50 grand? If you don't have 50 grand, you better find it. Because what happens is if you don't pay at the end of the auction, 2 things happen. So if you don't have the money, you usually get about 24 hours. If you don't have the money, 2 things happen. One, they forfeit your certificates. Those are all gone. You can't just pay for some of them. You have to pay for everything you bid on. They forfeit your certificates. Okay? Next thing you do is you're going to get a letter from the county attorney's office that says, hey, you didn't pay for your bid. Statute says you now owe me 25% of the total amount. So if you bid 100 grand and you don't have 100 grand, your certificates are gone, and you now owe the county $25,000. That's worst case scenario. So track your bids. Make sure you have the funds to pay at the end. Okay? Yeah.
You said all day, what's all day?
I think it's 8:30 to 4:30. They'll announce it in the bidding instructions. It's usually 8:30 to 4:30, and they take an hour lunch break at noon or so. But it'll be in. But yeah, it's a normal 8:30, 9-hour type of day. But it's just all day. Yeah.
Question, are the proper, do they come up like in order, or are they
Yes.
just random? Okay.
So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go through the first timers list,
Okay.
1 through 521. They're going to do it one at a time.
And it'll be 1 to like,
Yep.
an actual, okay.
It's a little different because he goes through the first timers list a little bit slower,
Okay.
but they'll do one at a time, but you'll be able to bid on up to like 15 or 20 at a time.
Okay.
They'll open up the bidder numbers, so it usually does like 10, 15 at a time. And you can enter what's called proxy bids. So proxy bid is, it's not time to bid yet, but I know my maximum is $3,000. So you can bid $3,000 now and it'll auto bid for you up to that amount.
Okay.
So if you only want one property and it's number 8,000 on the list, probably don't want to watch for 3 days. So if you know your max bid, you go to number 8,000, you put in your $3,000 max bid, and then you come back at the end and see if you won. So you can do proxy bidding, which is really nice. Let's see. Okay. How you pay? Certified funds, cashier, check, or money order. That you can bring to the county. Or you can send in a wire. Again, I don't know 100% that they're going to do the wire this year. They've done it the last 2 years. I assume they're going to do it this year. But all of the information will be in your bidder packet that they email you once you successfully register. You do not own these properties. Okay, what you have purchased is a lien. You have purchased a tax lien. The next step is to perfect that tax lien and turn it into a tax deed. So what does this mean? You can't go to the tenants and collect rent. You can't start fixing up the property. Right? You just have to leave the house alone through the redemption period until your tax deed is actually issued. They will mail you a tax sale certificate. It looks like this. It's a colored piece of paper. Last year's, I think, was yellow. but it's a double-sided colored piece of paper. They will mail this to you. Please keep these, because at the end of this process, the county needs these back from you so that they can record taxes for you. Also has some important information on them, but first and foremost, please keep these, for the end, yeah.
Two questions. One is, say for instance, that redemption period ends on that 120th day, so 121, and you still have, I guess, tenants now, since it's your property. Is enforcement already provided? Are they gonna get out? How do you get them out of your new home?
So remember that the 120 days is the redemption period. If they don't redeem the property, you still have to request a tax deed, so you don't actually own it yet.
Okay.
So, day 121, you file a petition for a tax deed, and they're gonna set it for a hearing. Lake County does hearings, usually in November for this kind of sale. So your hearing is now in November, presuming you are successful, you get a court order a week or two later, and then you have to bring all of that, the court order, the tax sale certificate, there's some funds you have to pay, property tax you have to pay. You bring that to the county and they will record your tax deed for you. I tell everyone that with a May sale, your tax deed is probably around Christmas. Okay, that's probably, if you do things efficiently, that's probably about when your tax deed will come down. We don't really care about Porter County because that is not happening this year. So, after you purchase your properties and before you hire an attorney to do this, please drive by them again. Remember, you've done your due diligence in March, April, maybe May. A lot can happen, okay? So you've won the bid, you haven't looked at it 3 weeks. You drive by one of them and you know, the tenant burnt it down because they were mad about something. Or maybe just burnt down because houses burned down. You probably don't want to spend another $800 to $1,000 on an attorney to work on a property that is now rubble. So please drive them again, because at that point you can say, well, this is a loss, cut your losses and you're done. Yeah. Okay, like I said, I would always suggest using an attorney, whether it's a company, whether you're doing it for a company or you're doing it personally, because attorneys know how to do this. Don't use any attorney, make sure they know how to do tax sale litigation, because it is a very specific field. Other reasons other than, you know, the knowledge part of it, anything you pay your attorney is reimbursable to you. If the owner redeems the property, they have to reimburse you for attorney fees. So, in addition to the taxes you pay, you get a premium on top of it. That's a 10%. 10% of your bid they have to pay as a premium, and you also get your attorney fees reimbursed to you. Okay.
It's 10% of the bid you guys.
10% of the bid.
Not
Yes.
of whatever the open was or tax on.
Correct. This sale is different. It's 10% of the bid. That is the amount that they have to pay as a premium.
So if it's like a $500 thing and you wind up getting it for $3,000, they have to pay you $300 if they
Yes.
get it.
Yep.
Okay.
When you say cut your losses now, say you make that purchase, you get the winning bid, and they burn it down.
Yep.
You're still, you don't get refunded what you won the bid for, right?
Correct. Yeah, that money's gone.
Gotcha.
But again, you're not spending money on taxes, you're not spending money on attorney fees.
Right.
So that's kind of what I mean by cut your losses. This is a high yield rate of return type of investment, but with all high yield rate of returns come high risk. Okay? Remember, you don't get to touch these things for 9 months at a minimum. A lot can happen in 9 months. So there is obviously some risk to this. I'm not trying to tell you you're all gonna be millionaires in 9 months, but because there's a lot of bad things that can happen too.
How soon, I guess, after that redemption period is that previous owner notified of what process has taken place?
So they're required to be noticed, the prior owners and all other parties are required to be noticed within 90 days of the sale. Okay, and then they're required to be noticed again within 90 days of the redemption period. So there's 2 notices that go out. So both of those notices have to go to the owner within 90 days. Okay, when you have, other important thing, just because you file a petition for a tax deed does not mean it gets granted. Okay, the county has to review your noticing to make sure you did it right, and if you did not do it right, you do not get a tax deed. Some circumstances you'll get a refund of your bid if you tried to do it right, but just messed it up. But that's not every situation. So, and there's also people that can object. Homeowners don't want to lose their homes. Okay, so they're going to object because they're trying to save their house, trying to work out a deal. Once they object, you're in active litigation. Trial rules apply. So if you don't know how to litigate, and you don't really want to learn, you you probably hire an attorney to assist you, okay? One thing, if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna hire somebody, and the very first question I would ask, how do you bill? Okay, so if you have an attorney that you're interested in talking to, how do you bill? And I say that because a lot of attorneys will charge a flat fee, like I said, $800 to $1,000. They'll charge a flat fee per parcel. But what's gonna be in your fee agreement is something that says, if someone objects, you have to pay me hourly after that. So remember, this is active litigation now. So you need to ask that question, because that can be anywhere from $250, $300, $350 an hour. And I can tell you that gets up pretty quick, because these hearings are not quick, they're long and drawn out. So ask that question. If you don't like the answer, look for somebody else. Okay, there are attorneys, I mean, we do it, we include our fee, our litigation is included in our flat fee. There are attorneys who do it. But definitely ask that question ahead of time. Okay, what's the next step? Title searches. You have to get a title search, otherwise how do we know who to notify? We're not notifying prior owners. I mean, we are, but there are other people, judgment holders, guardianships, guardians, estates, foreclosures, banks. All these people get entitled to notice. If you have an interest in the public record, you are entitled to notice of a tax sale. So it's not just prior owners. So title searches matter. Just like attorneys, the price range for title searches, they vary. Okay, but as they vary, so does the information you're provided. Okay, so this is a $100 title search. Gives you very basic information, and if it's a very basic search, you're probably fine. But if it's a more complicated search, you might not be. So again, it shows you the owner, it shows you the tax address, shows you they didn't find any judgments. I will tell you from experience, this search does what's called a computer search. So they only check the computer. Other title companies will actually go through the books and records at the government center to make sure that the computer caught everything. But this is a $100 search. This is a $200 search. This has, in my opinion, for tax sale purposes, too much information. So it tells you the owner, tells you the legal, which is great. But then it kind of goes into, if you bought a house and you've seen a title commitment, that's what this looks like to me. So it tells you taxes, which you don't care about. It tells you exemptions, which you don't care about. It tells you this whole page. I don't know if there's any actual information that you can use. I don't think there is. I think at the very bottom here, so to the interest of Michael Potter. So that's helpful. Then the next page, it tells you that there's some judgments that were entered. It tells you, let's see, who the attorneys, plaintiffs are. But so based off of this, who knows where to notify these people at, right? It doesn't tell you the addresses. So you need to know, based on the title search, where to send the notices. You can find it. You go into the judgments. You can pull the information to the judgment docket. They'll send you the documents. You just have to know where in the 30-page mortgage the address appears that you have to notify the title, the mortgage company. So it's doable, but at the same time, it's not as simple as, for instance, our title company. Now this is humble brag time. This is our product. So we actually just give you the addresses. Our title examiner does it for you. Still $200. No, this is not a $100 title search. You're going to get the names, you're going to get the addresses, you're going to get the interest and all the documents. If you really want to peruse through to make sure that our examiner did it right, you absolutely can do that. If you don't, if you want to trust the company, you can do that too. So what I do for our noticing purposes is literally just we take the addresses from here, we put them onto our notice. That's pretty much it. And then we send them out to those addresses. You send notices out certified mail, we send it out regular mail, we send it out, and then we go and post these notices to the physical buildings. But that's title search. So we were talking about a question on title searches. Or move on. Yeah.
So what is your, you said Indiana title?
Yeah.
What do you guys charge? The $200?
$200. Yeah.
Okay. And then if we were to hire you, it's the $800 to $1,000 flat fee?
Yeah, and that includes a title search. All of your attorneys should include a title search fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that per property?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, when do we hire an attorney? Is it like after, you bought, say, 5?
After you've won, basically.
After
Once
you've
the
won.
auction ends,
Okay.
they'll send you 2 receipts. One of them is an unofficial receipt. One of them is a more official receipt. Just has different information on each. I would send them both. But yeah, wait until the sale's done, wait until you pay.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, we were talking about a tax sale timeline, so this tax sale should end May 12th. Usually it's 3 days, it should end on May 12th this year. So you get 90 days to send what's called the 4.5 notice. This is the first notice that goes out to homeowners, judgment holders, lien holders, everyone. It says basically, hey, I bought the property at tax sale, here's how you redeem it. You get 90 days to do that, so the deadline to do that is August 10th. Then the redemption date is 120 days after the sale. Remember, we were talking about that earlier. So that would be about September 9th. Again, remember, none of these are hard and fast until we know when the sale actually ends, because that's going to determine when the clock starts. So this is just purely an example. After the redemption period, anybody who doesn't redeem, you get 90 days to file your petition for tax deed. So that would be about December 9th. Remember, 90 days is not 3 months. Okay? Don't confuse the two. If you're doing notices and you do exactly what I just did just now, say it's December 12th, you're probably going to be late. It's probably more like December 7th or 8th. It's just whatever the 90 days is. Okay? The first hearing is going to probably be in November. It usually is. Now, you're saying, okay, Mike, I get 90 days to file the petition, but there's only 60 days there. That's because Lake County does 2 different hearings, sometimes more, but usually 2 different hearings. Anybody that files their petition within 30 days of the redemption period, and at least 30 days before this November 9th date, which is the same day, they get this November 9th date. Anybody who does not file it within the first 30 days is going to get another date in December. Really no difference other than you got to wait an extra 30 days. So if the deadline to file your petition is, let's say, October 9th, and you file it on October 10th, you're not getting the November 9th date. They're going to push you into December. Once you go to the hearing, judge rules in your favor, they're going to issue a court order. Court orders are only good for 150 days, not 5 months, 150 days. Okay? What happens if you don't meet that 150 days? Your rights go away. Okay? So you no longer have a court order, and Lake County will not agree to renew it. Other counties maybe. Lake County will not. So you have to be on top of this. Okay? Because if you miss it, and your interest is gone. What does a court order look like? So this is just an example of a court order that we've used in the past. You can see on the right-hand side, it talks about 150 days. This is a requirement to go into court orders in Lake County, Indiana. So it says, petitioner's failure to perform any of the foregoing within 150 days shall make this order null and void. No motions for extension of this deadline will be entertained. So if you miss it, you miss it. Okay? Please don't miss it. I can't stress that enough. Okay, what's going to happen? What are some possible challenges? This is another good reason why you should get a lawyer. Bankruptcies happen. It's not common, but they happen. If someone files a bankruptcy after the date of the sale, after you purchase it, all the way up until the point where your tax deed is recorded, I'm not talking like, hey, I dropped myself off with the county. I'm talking about actually recorded and in your name. If they file bankruptcy anywhere in there, you are now locked into a bankruptcy. You don't get your money back right away. You don't get a tax deed. You have to go into the bankruptcy court, file a claim. So it'd be good to have a bankruptcy attorney help you with this. And then they're going to try and pay you out the amount that you bid over time. Okay? This is worst case scenario within reason. And again, it's not very common, but it's something to be aware of. If someone objects, that's, like I said, is considered a lawsuit. So you're going to need to know how to navigate that. Squatters, if someone's there, if it's abandoned and someone's just living in it, you need to know how to handle those. You can get what's called an ejectment action, which is kind of like another lawsuit that you have to file just to get these people out. You really can't file an eviction. Some courts do it, some courts don't, because they're not a tenant, and evictions are pretty much reserved for tenants, landlord-tenant situations, and these are not tenants. You can go back through the court, take the tax sale court, and get what's called a writ of assistance. The problem with that is they're so backed up with tax sale litigation in Lake County, it takes a long time to actually get that writ of assistance. Okay, title insurance. If you get a deed and you get possession and you want to sell the property to me, for instance, and I say, well, I want title insurance. I want to make sure that there's no liens and everything is gone. You can't get that without quiet title. Okay, the title industry has decided that they're not willing to risk the legitimacy of a tax deed because a lot of people do tax sale work themselves and may or may not do it right. And my oldest tax deed is 3 years old that I overturned. I had a client come to me and say, hey, I didn't get notice. I was like, well, when was the deed? 3 years ago. And we overturned it. So they went from owning it one day to not owning it the next day. And my client was happy, but it's possible. So we do a quiet title to make sure that we can try and cover all of those issues. There is Meridian has a product, it's called a tax sale analysis. It's like $2,000 just to have them do it. If they approve it, great. But the problem with that is that title policy is not honored by any other title company. So my title company will look at your title policy from Meridian and say, that's great that you, let's say you buy the tax deed and I don't know, I sell it to Tom. Tom goes, or I get Meridian to issue a title policy. Now his transaction is insured. Well, let's say he goes and he wants to sell it to Mr. Petrarch in the back, okay? We have to go through the whole process again. Because from what I've heard, even Meridian doesn't really honor that product. I think that's ridiculous. That might just be a rumor, but it's their product, so you would think they would honor it. But we can't. Our underwriter will not allow us to use Meridian's product to insure that second transaction. We have to go through the whole process again.
Well, you can get title insurance if you go through the quiet title process?
Yes, once you've completed a quiet title, you can get title insurance.
What does that cost?
It depends. Some attorneys are like $750, $800, some attorneys are $1,200, just depends. Okay, IRS liens. So, fun fact, I found out today that IRS liens as of February 2022 are no longer removable. They have a redemption period now for all future tax sales. Now, the reason they were removable before is because the IRS signed what's called a waiver with the state of Indiana that allowed the state of Indiana to remove IRS liens by tax deed. That waiver has since expired and so far has not been renewed. So I'm hoping it gets renewed again, but as of right now, IRS liens stay on property. Pretty much any federal lien at this point in time stay on property.
How can you identify the IRS lien on a property? Like you say, you've got 3 properties you really want to bid on. How can you find out if there's an IRS lien without getting title of that?
Pretty much getting title of them. There's really no other way to do it. You can run a judgment search, but it's probably not going to pop up. Yeah, that's unfortunately maybe the second worst case scenario for today's presentation. A week ago, we gave this presentation and was not really even a concern, but today now it is more because of the change in the rule.
What's the redemption period for IRS lien?
An IRS lien, I believe, is 120 days. Like I said, I just found this out today, so I gotta go do a little more research on it. Some liens, like I'm doing a quiet title right now, and it is a federal crime restitution lien for $60,000, and there is no redemption period. It's just good for 20 years. So we're trying to negotiate. I mean, it's a vacant lot in Gary, so it's really not worth much. So I'm sure they'll hopefully make a deal with us. But if you gotta make a deal with the federal government, or the lien stays.
Does that redemption lien roll over to the new owner, or does it reestablish and extend again for that 120 days?
The lien stays on the property, so the owner's not obligated to pay it. But the federal government can foreclose on your property in order to collect the lien. Doesn't happen often. I honestly don't think I've ever seen it, but it is possible.
Are those recorded with the county or no?
Yeah. No. The only way you're gonna find it is if you run a name search through the federal government database. I will say on occasion it will record it if it's property specific. So then you might find it in that property's chain of title. But the only way to actually find it is if you run a federal search, which is probably gonna have to be a federal company. Municipality liens, so if you don't know what a cut and clean lien is, the city of Hammond will mow your grass for you. It will be the most expensive grass cut of your career, hundreds of dollars. And then they will record those liens with the property, so with the property taxes. So when for instance, if they mowed them this past summer, and you buy a property at the sale in 2 months, that last summer's mowing you will be responsible for paying that. So that is handled. East Chicago doesn't do it as much, but they do it sometimes. That's something to look out for. If you're not looking at Hammond in East Chicago, you're probably fine. But Hammond in East Chicago, that's something to look out for. Something to take into consideration. Yeah.
So I noticed just looking through the GIS portal, like it seems like there's all like exorbitant amount, they're like vacant properties that maybe like are, have nothing on them, but like used to have a house on there, and there might be a huge amount of money that seems like I was wondering, like, would the city of Gary ever put on, like, they don't have an ability, that wouldn't be on the taxes owed. If
You mean
they
like a
did
demo lien?
Clean up, yeah, like demo, or like,
The liens will exist,
they.
but they don't record, as of now, the only cities or towns that do it is Chicago and New Hampshire.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they won't in the future, but right now they don't.
Okay.
The liens will still exist, and they really don't, city Gary doesn't really fight, so like if I do apply title here, the city of Gary, they really don't fight it. Hammond will fight it. And so, you're now in a trick box where you either pay Hammond and go away, or you take your luck with the court system, yeah.
At any point, could you settle, for instance, with the city of Hammond?
Yeah,
on the
oh yeah.
land? Like,
Absolutely, yeah, everything is resolvable, it's just a matter of how much,
Gotcha.
so.
We're seeing Maryville Conservancy pop up as well.
Are you? Yeah.
You said Maryville?
Maryville Conservancy District.
It's like the sewer
Yeah,
lanes.
yeah, I don't know if I've never really had a litigation with Maryville, but
No, they don't give in, it's like you pay or it doesn't matter.
I'd be interested in doing a wide title on one, see what they do. Okay, so that is possible challenges that you can face. Questions on any other challenges that you've heard of, or? No? Okay, so we've won, we got a court order, you are a proud parent of a new single-family residence. Let's drive it one more time. Because remember, we were talking about 2 months passing and crazy stuff like this house burning down happening. But now you're talking about like 6 or 8 months passing. You probably want to drive by that thing again. Because if you don't, if this happens again, if the house burns down during the redemption period before you get your deed, and you don't drive by it, you have a deed, and you have this house now, which is drastically different from when you budgeted it months ago. So, also you have the tax liability for it. If you've ever tried to appeal a tax assessment in Gary, they claw back, okay? That is their fuel that keeps the city going. So they're gonna fight tooth and nail on the tax assessment, even if something like this happens. Oh, you live there. Right? So they will fight you on the assessment.
You also have legal liability.
You also have legal liability. Somebody walks in and a beam falls down, and they get sued. So it's just definitely drive by before you pay your taxes and get your tax deed perfected.
What if that happens? Let's say, for instance, something falls on somebody and somebody went inside that property. It's through the redemption period. You're not liable for that now, right?
And as long as you don't have a deed, no. Yeah. Okay, so I keep saying perfect. I keep saying perfect your tax deed. What does that mean? So you get 150 days. Remember, you get 150 days that's in the tax sale order. So what does that actually mean? So you have to go to the Lake County Tax Sale Department with the following: your colored piece of paper, your tax sale certificate, because they held on to those. Okay? You have to get your court order, which tells you that you have successfully received an order to issue the tax deed. You have to fill out a sales disclosure form. Don't ask me why. I don't know why they require it, but they do. You have to fill it out very carefully, because if you don't fill it out correctly, they'll reject you. And why is that a problem? Deeds take like 3-4 months sometimes, and if you get 3 months in and they send you a little letter, that little love letter that says, hey, you didn't fill out the sales disclosure form right, you're back at the beginning of that 3-4 month waiting period. So make sure we're filling those out accurately. If you have questions, the assessor will help you. You just have to ask them. If you have questions 10 times, they're going to probably be less likely to help you. But they'll definitely help you if you have questions on how to fill out the form. You have to bring 3 checks to the county. You have to make cashier's check or money orders. So the first check goes to the Lake County Treasurer. Even though you don't own the property, you have to pay all property taxes that accrue after the sale. So the sale is in May, so you will have to pay May's installment even though you have no rights to the property. You will also have to pay November 2022, okay? Otherwise you're not getting a tax deed. You have to pay those before they will give you the tax deed. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Does that get reimbursed with the attorney fees though, if they redeem?
If you pay it before the redemption period and they redeem, yes. So if you pay and you can pay your property taxes after the sale during the redemption period, and you can submit a reimbursement form, or rather if you have an attorney, your attorney can. And then if the homeowner redeems, then yes, the taxes are reimbursable to you the same way the attorney fees are. So you get a check for the Lake County Treasurer. They'll give you tax bills to tell you exactly the amount you have to pay. And that check goes to the treasurer to pay your tax bills. You have to have another check to the Lake County Auditor for $10. That's to transfer it, it's just a standard auditor transfer fee. It's $10 today. They've changed it, I think, for non-tax sale purposes, I think 20 now, but for tax sale purposes, it's still 10. Well, let's check back in September, they might have changed it to 20, but for right now, it's $10. And then you have to have a check, a cashier check or money order for the Lake County Recorder for $25, okay? Once you've done all of that, the county will record and mail out your deed for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How can you find out how much the taxes are?
If you have an attorney, your attorney will get those amounts. If you don't have an attorney, you can just bring in your court order to the tax department, and they will print off tax bill for you. That's what you owe. Because it's not a normal tax bill, they're gonna modify it, because you're a tax bill purchaser. So if you bring it to the tax bill department, they will do it for you. Don't care about the report. Okay. So you've done it, you're waiting 3 to 4 months. Sometimes, I had one done in 2 weeks. They were the first one there. But, so it's a range of time. So if you haven't gotten anything and it's only been like a few weeks, please don't call the tax department because they're gonna be getting 1,000 calls again. And the answer is it's still in processing. Now, if it's been 3 or 4 months and you've not received anything, I would think about reaching out and saying, just wanna make sure everything's okay. You can't work on the property until your tax deed is done, okay? You can't go inside, you can't make repairs, nothing. So, once the tax deed is recorded and the auditor and the records change for you online and you get your tax deed, that's when you can go into the property. But if there's people there, we have to figure out what to do with the people. We talked about an eviction, depending on the court, it might work. We talked about a writ of assistance, kind of takes a little bit long in Lake County. Ejectment action is usually the route I advise you to go. Cash for keys is my absolute favorite option. Because these people know they're leaving, they know they're leaving. And if you've got an attorney who's gonna charge you $500 to $1,000 to do these other options, just give it to the occupant, right? Just say, here's $1,000, can you be out next week? Now, don't give it to them until they're out. Like, don't just give it to them and they're like, yeah, I'll be out next week, because they won't. So once they're out, you've got all the things out, make them sign something that says, I've removed all my belongings, you're free to take possession, okay, here's your $1,000 or $500 or whatever amount you agree to. I tell every single one of my clients, I would rather you pay the tenant who just lost their home than me to force them out. They're also gonna leave more peaceably, in my experience, okay? Questions on this portion of the presentation?
Hold on.
Just one.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a partner could not log on, even though he was registered to bid. Both people would have to be in the same location, right?
I mean, yes, I guess if you want to be on the same computer and working together on the same computer, you can do that, sure.
But, so then, somebody from the general public can't watch this unless they're registered.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Somebody from the public can't watch it if they're not registered.
Correct, yes. The comment was, the public can't view the auction, that's true.
But then it's not a public auction.
I know, I don't make rules.
Question.
Yeah.
So for the Fall Treasury auction, you mentioned starting bid is what taxes owed, right?
Yes.
Okay, now when it rolls over into the Spring Commissioner auction, it starts at 500. Now that tax that's owed on that property still has to get paid once awarded, even if you purchased it if you won the bid at 500, right? So
The old taxes do not. The old taxes get eliminated by the tax deed from this sale. So if it's $100,000 in taxes and you win for $500, you only have to pay taxes after the sale. They're like $1,000. So all old taxes get wiped away.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The, that 120 days, in the statute, does it say shall or must?
120 days shall or must what?
Well, in Illinois, it says the same thing, 120 days, but if you go beyond that, you know, you make a mistake or you're busy or whatever, you could submit it 6 months later.
No.
It's a petition for the
It
deed.
is a hard deadline.
But does it say a hard deadline in the
It
statute?
says shall, yes.
Shall.
The statute says shall do it within 120 days.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no extensions. Yeah.
Say you purchase, you're awarded a parcel, right? It's open land, there's 4 lots. You get one parcel that's in the middle, and a neighbor built on that property. Have you run into that issue before, where someone won and now somebody has built an improvement on that lot?
So that would be what's called an encroachment. Encroachment is where they build over your line and are essentially encroaching onto your property line. So really the only way to handle that is what's called a partition action. So partition action says, hey, we own this building that sits on half on your lot, half on my lot. So we either make a deal on how this building is gonna be utilized, or we sell it at a public auction. So it's not common. Well, it is common to happen. Usually what happens is the people who are opposing each other make out a deal. You know, let me buy 6 feet of your grass. So that now I'll pay you, I don't know, a few grand for 6 feet of your grass, and now I'm good. Now the boundary line has shifted. Which, to be fair, is also why we see, you know, situations where you're buying 10 feet or 6 feet of land. Yeah.
So question, so the new list, those properties were already on the fall tax sale, correct?
Yes.
So now they're $500 because they weren't bought at the November or whatever that other tax sale was?
Correct, the treasurer's office.
Okay.
Yes. Just, yeah. No.
Can you pay an attorney to actually help you,
November 2021.
Sorry.
So the question is, can you pay an attorney to help you register for the sale? I mean, I suppose you could. They can't register for you. They can help you. I help clients make sure they're checking all the boxes, sure. But they can't register, like, I can't register for you to bid, and then you tell me what to bid on. But if you need help, like, going through the documents, sure. Then that you can do.
So you do have, like a seminar or something for the registration?
I don't have one yet. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna end up doing some kind of Facebook Live thing, but like I said, probably not before tomorrow, or Thursday. Registration is Thursday, so this is probably it. So if you have registration questions, now's the time.
So you won't be available for?
Huh?
So will you be available for that?
Sure, yeah.
This list that is gonna be up for this upcoming bid, that is gonna be on ZeusAuction.com, correct?
The list is on Onyx Electronics.
Onyx Electronics.
Onyx Electronics. is
Now,
where the
again,
list is.
that is a public, we can view that, or we have to register to view that?
I believe you have to register first, but the registration is free.
Gotcha.
You can see the list. Anyone can see the list.
Oh, I'm sorry, Onyx Electronics, yes. Onyx Electronics, the list is on there for free. You don't have to register.
Okay,
Zeus Auction, you have to register.
gotcha.
Yes.
So you can see.
Thank you.
Question. Now, if you do hire an attorney, say we hire you or just another attorney to do handle everything for you, basically all you gotta do yourself is do the title search, and then once you buy the property or the animal, then the attorney will handle all that from there up until your tax fee, right?
Yeah, I mean, they should.
Yeah, obviously it's a good attorney.
Yeah, I would make sure you understand what exactly they're gonna do for you.
Okay, right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
should do that, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you. Anybody who's online that's been asking questions, I will answer them, now that my time is done. Please welcome Mr. John Wilson.
Well, thank you, Mike, appreciate that. Is there more questions? Just, somebody else have questions they wanna get to you? So, I do wanna let everybody know Mike forgot he didn't leave his cards here. So if anybody wants to make sure that they get that, please make sure. And honestly, at the end of the day, there are some things that you can do yourself, so I'll just kind of give you guys my experience here. I'm not giving it best investment advice. This is just for entertainment and educational purposes, right? So really, at the end of the day, just hire an attorney for what you don't know how to do. You might think, the $300 or $400 an hour is really expensive, but at the end of the day, you're paying for years of experience, and you're paying for a lot of the tools that he has in his toolbox that you don't have. And I would even tell you for title, just hire a title company. Always get title. Don't do a lot of quick claim deeds unless you're transferring a property from yourself to yourself. That's just my advice. We do title searches on everything that we ever do anything on. The only time that I will not pay, this is just me, the only time I do not pay Indiana Title to do a title search is only at time of acquisition if I'm acquiring in the world. So if I'm gonna go to you and I'm gonna go to your house, before I even go to that house, I'm gonna look on, so I have access to a software. It charges me a couple dollars every time I pull, and it's like one of the $100 searches that you're gonna get. It's not gonna be the full search, but I'm only doing that because I wanna know how much I can actually offer somebody. So on acquisitions, if you're gonna wholesale, or if you're gonna buy a house from the general public, that's just me. Like, I wanna know what's on public record, I wanna know what the chain of custody's been, and you can pull those, you don't have to hire, a title company for that, but every time I'm gonna purchase a property or sell a property, I'm going to get title insurance. I'm gonna make sure that happens. So just be careful, you do have liability. I'm gonna tell you that. If you don't have title policy, you do have liability.
What tool is it that you use to?
Again, I can't even tell you that because I'm not the person in my company that does that. My wife actually is the one that has access to that. And I think we even had to have permission through some kind of title company to even have that, that access to that kind of software. But it's out there. You guys can do it. So real quick, how much time do you guys have? So I have a presentation that I prepared, but I know it's already 7:30, and I don't want to keep you guys too late. If you guys want me to go through it, I can. If not, then I don't want to keep you guys too late. But I did have something prepared for you. Didn't want to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate you guys. A little bit. Well, I'm going to get into my company here in the presentation. So I have two big dreams. One of my big dreams is to give away $1 billion, and one of my dreams is to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. And it's one of these things that I've been talking about. I've been doing. I'm not just saying this. This is not just a marketing speech. This is not just something that I do, that I just try to get people involved in the city of Gary. But we have flipped about 300 homes in the last 5 or 6 years in Gary, Indiana. We are so dead on Gary, Indiana, and so committed to that. Me and my wife are actually moving to Gary, Indiana. I was just telling the young lady over here, we're moving to Lincoln Street, right by in the Horace Mann area, right by the hospital. And actually, it's really close to this property right here. So we bought this property about 1.5 years ago on Johnson, and then we sold it. You can find this. I'm not sure what the exact address is, but trust me, when you see it, you'll know. Okay, wow, I understand that property. And to me, it's more about changing the community. So, and you might think, okay, you're just a flipper. You're not really. And I've been in the old mayor's office, and I could not get through her thick skull that this changes a community. It really does. If you go from this is the house on your neighborhood, and then all of a sudden this is the new house on your neighborhood, who bought that house? Somebody that could pay $200,000 bought that house. Do you think that new person, do you think that person that would have lived in this is a better person, or do you think the person that would have lived in this is probably more than likely that person's a better person? They saved money, they've had a good job, and you're putting better people back into a community that, in my opinion, has been dilapidated for one single reason: lack of investment. And as soon as you take investors out of a community, you take away money, and you take away opportunity, and you take away a whole mindset, and that's what we're trying to bring back to the city of Gary, Indiana. So this is what we do, and we don't put in crappy finishes. Even in my rentals, I put in quartz or granite countertops, and I know people crucify me and say, oh, you're over finishing. I don't believe so. Because when I put quartz or granite countertops, and I put luxury vinyl plank, and I put nice backsplashes, and I make it look like HGTV for the renters in Etna, which again, nobody else in this area that I know of is doing, I'm getting now $1,200, $1,300 a month for rent in Etna. How many other people do you know getting $1,200 or $1,300 a month for rent in Etna? Again, better people, better house, better people, better community. And think of it from the investment standpoint, okay? If you're getting $600 or $700 for a property, or $900 versus $800, $900, $1000, $1100, $1200, for that same property, the investor is making more money too. I can promise you. They might be putting a little bit more money into it. Let's just take granite countertops for instance. I can guarantee you, you get $50 to $100 more per month for rent to put granite countertop. One simple change, granite or quartz countertop. In most properties in Gary, does anybody know what the difference is between quartz countertops or Formica? Contractor here? What's the difference? These small kitchens, I'm telling you, it's between $600 and $900. I promise you, every single time. $600, $900. Now, what's $100 a month times 12? Most investors, if you can make 100% on your money in year one, like it's a good investment. So I promise you, you're getting 60 to 100% on your money by just making some simple change, and you're making somebody that lives in that property feel like they have HGTV in their house. So again, I'm passionate about this. This is something that, again, I get crucified sometimes by local investors because they don't believe in Gary, and honestly, some of them have other reasons I won't get into. Why they don't like Gary, Indiana, but I'm not that person, and I do believe in the city of Gary, Indiana. I want to make it happen, and we are. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm moving to the city myself as well. My wife said, if you're going to flip the city of Gary, Indiana, you need to have your office there. That's why we put our offices here 4 years ago, because we wanted to make sure that we made that stance. There's many ways people work with us. I have investors from around the country and even international investors that do buy turnkey rentals from us. We do build rental portfolios for investors. So there's many people that buy turnkey rentals from us and then we manage for them. We have a company called Conduit Capital. If you're looking for hard money loans, we do lending right here in Gary, Indiana, right here in Lake Porter, LaPorte, and actually the whole state of Indiana and several states around the country. We do lending. And then a lot of investors, they have extra capital and they're just looking for 10% on their money. And, so you can also loan money to our company, or you can also loan money. I shouldn't say loan, but we also have a fund with the Conduit Capital Company as well that you can invest in as well. We do have 2 podcasts, so these are free, another free education sources for you guys. We have the Good Success Podcast, which is probably 250, 300 episodes on the Good Success Podcast. And then if you're interested in rentals, the Active Turnkey Podcast, me and Jared, one of my asset leaders who runs Olson Group, we do Active Turnkey. We have a lot of fun with that. So Active Turnkey is more specific on managing and more on like actual rentals, where the Good Success Podcast is a lot of influencers in the last couple of years that I've gotten on there, giving success tips and that kind of stuff. These are kind of some of our brands. Apocto Homes is not a company, it's just a brand that we market to buy houses with. And then I also own a company called Olson Group Network, and that is our buy and sell company. We buy and sell about 100 houses a year in that company. I have bought and sold over 2,000 homes since 2007, 2008. And most of those, the majority of those, we bought and sold through Indiana Title Network. So with Doug or now Mike at the helm there, and they've been great for us. I always tell everybody, please use the Indiana Title Network. They're a great company to work with. I'm also a general contractor. We're licensed in Gary, we're licensed in Hammond, we're licensed in County, we're licensed in Porter County, LaPorte County, all of those cities that you guys can be licensed around here as well. So if you're a contractor and maybe you're not licensed in those areas and you need somebody to help you or be kind of like an umbrella company for you, let us know. We can help you in that regard as well. And then I also have a company called Olson Property Services, and they do property management. We manage about 450 doors right now, and that's something that's kind of something that we do. Also, we have Sarah Joe Corporate Rentals, so we love Airbnb, VRBO. We have about 15 of those that we have as well, and most of them are right here in Northwest Indiana. We do have one in Pensacola, Florida, but the rest of them are right here from Miller Beach, with the house right across the street, 2 houses down the street. So again, that's something else that we do. This is a house that we loaned on to somebody that was in one of my masterminds from Conduit Capital last year, right here in Gary, Indiana. And I think he bought this house for 20 grand, put about 60 into it, and ended up selling it for about 130 in the Tolleson area. Again, many ways to work with me. I'm not going to get into this too much, but I do consult. I do business consulting. I implement business operating systems in people's businesses. If you've heard of EOS or Traction or Scaling Up, I do implement those. Most of those people charge about $30,000 to implement those into people, so I know most people can't afford that. So I'm charging about $3,000 a day. It normally is about a 2 or 3 day process, depending on the size of your company. I also do just personal coaching. financial freedom coaching. I kind of build financial freedom plans for people as well, help many people with that. And then something that we're offering for free, I don't have anything to really offer. I'm just trying to let you guys know what we do. But this is something that I've been doing for free. I believe that digital currency is not like an if thing. I believe it's a when thing. And I believe that the federal government right now is already starting to have things move in this direction. I also believe title companies are going to start moving in this direction with blockchain and having title on blockchain. I know that it's back and forth. I do think that there at some point title companies will learn how to monetize that and be in that realm. I already know people that are using NFTs now to sell property, and everything is on that blockchain, on the NFT, on the back end space. So again, I'm learning this myself. I'm no expert on crypto, and I don't even recommend you go out and invest in crypto. I think it's kind of stupid, if you ask me. Yes, some people have made millions of dollars, and that's great, but I am more interested in the technology. I believe that all of your Class A top developers, Apple, Google, Facebook, are all investing billions of dollars into this right now, and if they think it's worth it looking into, I think I should understand what's going on. I have tenants that are trying to pay in crypto right now, and I think I should know how to accept this, and I want to know how this is going to work in the future. So honestly, I'm in a bunch of big Facebook groups with people around the country, and I just said, hey guys, if anybody would be interested in doing like a monthly call, let me know. And literally, I had 60 or 70 people sign up for the first call. And I think the second call, we had like 100 people on it, and it's really just it's growing. So we have a Facebook group, and the next call is on April 2nd, and this guy's actually going to talk about crypto mining. So we have a different person on every single month, and we just talk about something different. Last month was on how to invest in crypto in your self-directed IRA. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. Again, if you guys want to get on that, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be on this as well. We have a free event in September. I was going to see if Mike could speak at that for tax sales if you're interested. So September 30th through October 2nd. It's again the real estate free. It's a free event for everybody if you guys want to be a part of that. So if you guys do want to be a part of those things, if you guys just want to text this number, you guys can be a part of that. So I'll just leave that up there. If you guys want to take a picture of it, you want to just text free for all to 773-770-4377, and you guys can be a part of that. You guys got that? All right. So anybody want to learn about contracting, or not contracting, but how to work with contracting? Anybody? One person? Well, I can just skip this. Then that's fine. We can just let Mike do his thing. So Mike asked me to do this. I wasn't really prepared for this. I just said, hey, I got presentations that I've done over the years, and I could do it. I wrote a book on investors versus contracting. So I did throw this together. I just believe that contractors and investors need to work together. I mean, that's really that's really the thing. I think you ought to have timelines. There ought to be rewards and penalties if things are done on time. Not on time. I believe there ought to be a scope of work. And we've actually created a whole software called Scoper that we developed to kind of do our scope of work. And I believe that everything that should go through that scope of work, you ought to have a schedule, and there ought to be a contractor agreement as well. So these are all things that we have implemented in our company. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that things are done right. I kind of threw some tips together. First of all, you want to know what type of rehab you're doing. For us, our different processes are: do we want to fix and flip? Do we want it to be a turnkey rental? Is this just kind of like a regular rental, and I don't really want it to be super hot, or is this going to be a custom, rehab? So you really want to know that purpose. You want to, kind of see that first. The scope of work is kind of the foundation of the rehab. You also want to make sure you have checklists in there. We have standardized pricing. We have 800 SKUs from the different stores that are built into our scope of work. That we want to make sure we get exact measurements. We want to create material lists of those SKUs, and we also have a designer that goes out and makes sure that they check everything when we do a job. This is our Scoper app. I think you can actually find it. I'm not sure, but we don't. At one point, we were going to sell this, and we kind of just decided not to sell this Scoper app. But I think you can find it. I'm not sure that you can really do anything with it without getting stuff from us. But this is what it looks like. This is what our thing looks like here. How many of you guys have had problems getting utilities turned on? You guys don't do a lot of investment, okay. The people that have invested, understand this, but the more you start buying properties, like, especially in Lake County and Indiana, it just seems like, it's become more and more of a headache, especially if utilities have been off for over 2 months. So we've had to come up with our own process just for utilities. Something that we do is that we have a weekly walkthrough. And so every single time we're doing a rehab, somebody's walking through that property, they're taking weekly pictures, change orders are happening, and the pictures are important for many reasons. The pictures are important for documentation. They're also important for, like, if there's something there and all of a sudden your contractor later says, oh, you never brought that. Well, guess what? I got a picture from 2 weeks ago that says this was here, so where did it go? So we also do kind of a weekly checklist, and we also have a quality control list that we, and then our project coordinator will also contact contractors and say, hey, is this done? Where are you at? And then they'll also walk through the property with them. Just some items that are on our quality control list. This is what, part of our quality control list looks like. So you probably need to make sure that you have a quality control list, or else your rehabs are going to get out of whack, and you don't want that to happen. Obviously there's extras that kind of come up during the process. You want to be reasonable with them, but you also want to try to include as much of what could happen at the very beginning of your project. I promise you it will cost you less money. Finding the right contractors. So this is some tips for finding the right contractors. I think the number one thing you can do is referrals, find other real estate investors. That's probably been the best from us. Friends and family, realtors. You'd be shocked at how many great referrals for contractors you can find from realtors. Other real estate investors. Sometimes you can get them from Home Depot, Menards, or Lowe's. And then a great place to find contractors, though, is go to the city. It's public information. They have to give you this. You can find out who has pulled a permit in the last year or so. And guess what? If they've pulled a permit, you already know. Number one, they're licensed. Number two, they have insurance, which is something you want to make sure that they all have. So don't forget using the city lists to do that. Something real quick here that I'll give. When you're a real estate investor, like our goal is to get the rehab done for what? The most money or the least amount of money? The most? The least, right? Okay, so you have to understand that you do have a little bit of an opposite end of the spectrum from the contractor. Because if you're a contractor, do you want to get the most money for your job or the least amount of money for your job?
The most.
You want to get the most. Okay? And I'm on both ends of the spectrum, so I understand it. That's why I wrote the book. I've got copies of the book back there if anybody doesn't want a copy. I sell those books. They're on Amazon as well. But like you have to understand, like if you're going to hire a growing company, they're probably hungry for work. They're probably going to be usually a little bit less expensive. They're also going to probably be lower quality potentially. They're also going to be not always the most organized. I'll tell you, contractors are one of the worst business people you've ever met in your life. They don't understand that all businesses have three parts of their business. They think that businesses only have the operational part of their business. And they might be great operators. They might be a great contractor, but they're not really particularly great at sales and marketing, and they're normally horrible at admin and finance. So every business has got three parts. You've got the sales and marketing part, your operational part, and then your admin and finance part. Does that make sense? I don't care what business you have those three parts of your business. Even in title work, even in being an attorney, he has to market, he's got to get leads in and find clients. He's got to have an operational part, his actual job that he does, and then he's going to have to bill them, and he's going to make sure he pays his employees, right? So all those things have to happen, but contractors forget about that for the most part. So I believe you can be the best friend to your contractors by telling them, hey, I will take care of the sales and marketing part. You will never have to pay to get another lead ever because I'm just going to keep you busy over and over and over again. Contractors love to hear that. And I'm also going to pay you every single week. As parts of this process gets done, I'm going to pay you every single week. So you can really eliminate pain points for contractors. And as a contractor, if you find a good person that's organized, they can teach you a lot of business sense as well. But again, as an established company, especially in today's world, they're not very hungry. They're usually, a lot more expensive. Sometimes they're higher quality, not always. I've come to find that out. Usually they're more organized, and normally they have lower crews, so sometimes they can get stuff done a lot faster. You know, one thing you'll learn in investing is sometimes speed matters a whole lot more than price. So what I have found is like you want a combination of these guys, or you want to kind of find somebody in the middle that will kind of work with you. But just understand what you're working with. You know, price is not the only thing that matters when it comes to getting a contractor. The contractor agreement is very important. I've had my attorneys look over mine over the years and kind of change things. You want to make, this is a very important piece when you're hiring contractors, you know yourself. That just because you have a scope of work doesn't necessarily mean you want to have a contractor agreement that spells out everything. And Mike can probably give you a lot more reasons why that contractor agreement is very important to have. And again, I've been on both sides of this. I've been on the side of the contractor, and I've been on the side, and the contractor agreement should protect both sides of this. It really should spell out. So one of the things that we have in our contractor agreement is we have a finish date. And when a contractor comes to me and says, I can get it done in 4 weeks, I turn around and I say, no, you can't. Like, I know you can't get this job done in 4 weeks. I've done over 900 rehabs, and I know that this is probably a 5-week process or a 6-week job. And I say, okay, you think you can get it done in 4 weeks, I'm gonna give you 5 or 6 weeks, but guess what? Every day you take after this extended period of time that I've given you, I'm gonna charge you $50. It's gonna cost you $50. And if it takes a week, it's gonna be $100 a day. If it takes you 2 more weeks, you know, I'm charging them because they're costing me money. And I promise you, every single, like we have a spreadsheet, it's called a cost per day sheet. And every one of our property, right now we own 121 properties that we're in some kind of process with when it comes to, you know, buying and rehabbing and selling. And we know like exactly how much money that house is costing us per day. And that includes utilities, that includes taxes, that includes interest on our loan that we have on that property. And I'm telling you, every property is costing you, if you have a loan on it, it's costing you somewhere between $60 and $150 a day. And so you need to know that. So now, again, on the flip side, I say, hey, if you are right and you can get done with this project in 3 weeks, like you promised, and I've never seen happen, and if you get it done in 4 weeks, you know, I'm giving you 5 or 6, I'm going to give you $50 or $100 a day extra to get it done because time is money for me, and I'm willing to pay you more. You get it done quicker, just like I expect you to, you know, kind of be paid less if it takes you longer than what we agreed it's going to take you. We attach the scope of work to the contract, and then we also have contact information on there as well. So in case there's an emergency, who to contact, you know, who's your project coordinator, all that kind of stuff. There's also a termination clause, which is a very important clause to have in there as well. Who has the right to terminate this clause? You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, we probably hire about 2 or 3 new contractors a month, and we normally only keep 1. So again, like it's, and I don't mean that in a bad sense. Like I really don't. You know, but we have a high standard, and we want people to be able to hit those standards. I think that payment progress payments are important. I don't like paying a half up front, especially for new contractors. You know, what I like to do is if it's like a $30,000 rehab, for instance, that the contractor's going to pay, I like to kind of, if it's a 5-week process, I'll divide that by 6, and I'll pay them 1/6 up front to get started, and then I'll pay, and what we'll do is we'll break up that scope, and we'll let the contractor break it up in what order they're going to do it in, and then we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, so on and so forth. Make sense? Now, they don't get paid on that phase until it's done. So they get their little bit up front, and then they get their, you know, their phase payments, and then at the very end, we have a punch list, and they don't get their final payment until that punch list is complete. I'm doing a project right now for Mike, and Mike actually came out and helped us with this punch list, and now the contractor is finishing up this punch list, and I think he's done now, if I'm not mistaken. But like, he's not gonna get paid on that final until that thing's done. Does that make sense? Also, like if it's a brand new contractor, I don't like giving them more than $2,000 up front. I'm sorry, it doesn't cost that much to get demo done. It doesn't cost that much to, you know, to do that first week of stuff. And then also, like, we are ordering the bulk of the expensive material, so we're ordering like cabinets, granite, flooring. You know, like, we're only making our contractors purchase things like, you know, 2x4s, drywall, paint, like the inexpensive stuff. So we normally try to control the more expensive the finishes,
Finish
so to speak. Even faucets, lights, we pay for, and we make the contractor kind of pay for all the little nitty gritty stuff that we don't want to get into. We always want to make sure that the final payment's at least 15% of the total cost. I want to make sure that they have enough skin, enough, incentive to come back and finish this project. Because it's always more expensive to hire a second contractor. Because why? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. I don't care if you're a dentist, if you're a doctor, if you're an attorney, if you're a chiropractor, or if you are a contractor. Whenever one person looks at somebody else's job, it's always wrong. I don't care who it is. Sorry, Mike. Attorney's the same way, right? Like, attorney's going to say the same thing. A lot of my investors are dentists. I promise you, if you go to a dentist and you go to another dentist, the dentist is going to say, that guy jacked up your teeth. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. And contractors, I think, are the worst when it comes to this. Like, they always tell you the last guy did something wrong, so they're always going to charge you more for that job. So you don't want to get another contractor. You really want to finish with that contractor. Change orders, you want to make sure that they're in writing and everybody agrees to it. And something like, you want to make sure you spell out, if a contractor decides they're going to do something without getting this change order, without actually getting approval, there's no guarantee I'm going to pay you. And that's spelled out in the contractor agreement right at the beginning. Don't forget, if you're an investor, don't forget that there's property maintenance that needs to happen, especially in cities like Hammond. If you don't cut that grass, we've gotten charged over $400 for a simple $35 lawn, that should have been done. Mike is not kidding. Now, how illegal that actually is, I don't know, and there's lots of people that I know that sue Hammond and win all the time because their attorneys just at the end decide that they're gonna bow out and not even go because they know that what they're doing in a lot of instances is actually against the law, but they don't really seem to care. So again, make sure that you mow your lawns, make sure you keep your weeds trimmed, make sure that you snow removal, access the property, garbage is cleared. We want to make sure that our AC and heat's running. What we do every time we leave at night, we want to make sure that the water mains are shut off, especially in the wintertime. Things that happen. And then also sump pumps are operational. You don't know how many times I've had a contractor use the sump pump plug for their radio and then not plug the sump pump in. Okay, it's not a fun situation the next morning, especially if they're in a low area. So these are things that you do want to be careful of. Again, that's it. Again, I know I went through this really quick. I can take an hour to do this, and I wanted to be mindful of your guys' time. But I just want to remind you guys again about the stuff that we have going on. We have the free crypto calls, and we do have the real estate free-for-all event that we're doing. And then there's a number again, if you want that. Yes, sir?
Quick question for you, got two of them. Pertaining to your LDs, you primarily focus in Gary. So what do you typically see like the okay for subcontractors accepting LDs on a project?
Can you explain that again? I'm sorry. I'm not following.
So liquidated damages, right? So if they pass that timeline, now they have to pay you $50. So in Gary, what do you see as the okay or the norm for subcontractors not being resistant or creating that friction?
We talk about subs or generals. So we really only work with generals on those. Subs like plumbers or electricians or most of those guys are on it. So I don't really have to worry about it most of the time. But when it comes to, it's more like the GC that's going to do the majority of the work, and we have a separate guy that does all the flooring. Sometimes they have their own plumbers. Sometimes they have their own electricians. It just kind of really depends. But it's really the general contractor that will make the job drag on too long. Does that make sense? I mean, that's been my experience. But I'm telling you, it's like we start at $50 a day, and then it goes up. It goes up if it keeps, I just don't want this thing dragging out a month, and they don't care because they found some other job that's paying them a lot, and I'm like, I need you to finish this job. Right. So, and honestly, it's something that you have to be flexible on. There are, we have had material shortages, we have had other issues, and the thing is, if there's a change order or if there's an extra that comes up in the middle of this, it makes the whole project take longer. So we give extensions on almost every house, but it's really more, and especially through COVID. COVID's really messed this system up for us. But it's still something that we wanna have. Does that make sense?
No, I had another question regarding retention, but if you're dealing primarily with subcontractor, it may not be applicable. So
Okay.
it's more so on the GC side. So I got it.
Yeah, I mean, once you find some people that you can work with, and I know most people are not doing volume like we are, so most people really only need one general contractor, they need one good plumber, one good electrician. I mean, we keep probably 3 plumbers very busy, we keep 5 or 6 HVAC guys very busy, we keep 3 or 4 roofers very busy. One guy we have one guy that does our carpet and one guy that does our luxury vinyl plank, and like they pretty much do almost every one of our houses and they keep up. So, you know, it's amazing. Like a general contractor can do flooring, but it'll take them like 5 or 6 days to do what like a flooring guy can do like in 1 day. So sometimes you just gotta, you know, kind of figure that out. I mean, look, vinyl. We do a lot of vinyl plank. We buy about $20,000 at a time of vinyl plank, and we kind of keep like this is the one thing that we use. That's something I didn't go over. Like all of our stuff is standardized as much as possible. You know, so we're using the exact same paint in every property. We're using the exact same vinyl plank in every property. We do have like A, B, and C finishes. So like we might have A, B, and C lights, A, B, and C plumbing fixtures, A, B, and C granite, A, B, and C. You know, so depending on if the house in Valparaiso, you know, $400,000 house, we're probably not going to use the exact same finishes that we're going to use in that house. Does that make sense? But they're all going to be nice. They're not going to be what I would call step above slumlord. Like I don't want that at all. Yes, sir.
Have you ever used Xactimate, the
Software for. So that's basically a lot what our prices are based on. Our prices are based on Xactimate and like the insurance industry's estimations for what things should cost.
A couple of years ago, there was a Northwest Indiana Investors Group that met in Sherrville, and they had like a couple hundred people show up monthly. Is there a reason you don't have a monthly class, like maybe once on insurance, once on roofing, once on permits?
Yeah, the reason is I don't want to. No, so I do have an assistant. She lives in Washington D.C. I have run a national mastermind where we charge $25,000 a person to be a part of the mastermind. I had a local mastermind as well where we charged about $5,000 a person to be a part of as well. And right now I just don't have the person working for me that I think would. I'll tell you what I don't want to do. Like I'm okay getting up and teaching. I'm okay giving somebody my building. That's what I told Mike. I'm like, you can have my building every single month if you want to. I don't care. Like I'm okay like being the operator of like an event, like a meetup group like that. I just don't want to market it, and I don't want to be the person that's like trying to make. So if somebody else, honestly, if somebody else in this room says, hey, let's do a meetup group, like you guys can use this space, I'll be here as many times as I can.
That's real nice, but realistically, Gary, there's 10,000 vacant houses. So we really need like 100 of you, right, to make a dent. So that's what my hidden agenda is.
Sure.
Where do we find, or you have to find 100 of your clone 100 people to turn Gary around.
Maybe.
Next question is, on the, have you ever done the 203K or Fannie Mae home style?
No, I don't really get involved in that. I use private money for every single deal that I do, and I have 189 people I think now in my Podio app of people that want to give me money, which is part of the reason why I had to create a lending company because I couldn't do enough deals to keep all my private money lenders happy. So I just don't like to deal with appraisers. I don't like to deal with a lot of that other. It is a lot of headache. Like if I want to do a private money loan, and I could be here all night on private money because I'm a private money lender as well, but. You know, for me to pay like 8 or 9 or 10% to a private money lender versus me getting a 6% or whatever percent, it's not even worth the time I have to go through and the hassle to get a 203K loan. Can't do it with speed.
But do you have a sales staff?
For some of my companies, yes.
But do you have like a dozen or 2 dozen real estate agents?
So that is something that my wife right now is, we're starting a brokerage, so that's like another company that we're starting right now, but we don't, at this point we don't, but we will.
Okay, just curious.
So this year the objectives are, I did start a second market in Pensacola, Florida, because I believe everybody's moving to Florida, it seems like. So I have bought 20 homes in Pensacola in the last year, including a second home for me and my family. And then also, we are starting the fund. It goes live next week for the kind of capital fund. And then we're starting Listing Leaders Affiliated as well. Will be a brokerage that we're doing this year as well.
Well, if you want to really help Gary, you really have to have a brokerage with 20 or 30 professional real estate agents.
Well,
you have no competition in Gary.
It's coming. Trust me, it's coming.
It's definitely coming. You have no
Don't tell me that. Like I that was the case 3 years ago, but that's not the case today.
Who is your competition?
Well, there's people in this room. There's people buying in Gary, aren't there?
Yeah, there's people, but I'm talking about real estate agents. I know Gary very well, and you have the nicest office. You're the most professional person. Where is there a quality office in Gary? Drive down Broadway, drive down Fifth Avenue. You got Godwin and Miller, but he's busy with the city.
I get.
So hire these people.
Well, so when it comes to tax sales, I do want to let everybody know, our company does this on a very small scale for tax sales, and it's honestly because my acquisitions people have their own processes to acquire like different ways. And so if anybody is interested in partnering or does want, I can offer money and I can offer expertise on that, but what I would need is like people that to actually go out and do more of the due diligence and find that because it is, like, I'm telling you, like, it is a, find diamond in a rough situation. And it's getting harder than, it used to be much easier, if you ask me, than it is now. To me, like, now it's like, man, I'd rather just find somebody else to help me do this stuff. I buy from a lot of wholesalers, honestly. I buy because there's a lot of money that has to go into marketing to purchase properties, and sometimes it's just not worth it. Sometimes you gotta pay that at some point, and sometimes I'd rather just pay the money than invest all the time. And I've got 30 people that work for me, but they work in 8 different businesses. So, and they all have priorities to do, what they're doing. So, I am interested in partnering. I need contractors. We are hiring. And we are starting a brokerage, so if anybody's interested in being a broker and a licensed agent, we will have a school here, I'm hoping by the end of, by the fall. That's kind of one of the things that are on the horizon as well. Yes.
Yeah, question. If we wanted to use any of your services, how do we, do you have a website or?
Yeah, so every one of the companies have websites, but I did put some papers back there that says, like, I'm interested in property management, I'm interested in lending, I'm interested in construction.
I'm actually a broker, so.
Awesome.
I'll be here whenever.
I'd love to talk to you about that as well.
Definitely.
And again, I'm not trying to steal people from other people's things, but if somebody has a heart for Gary, they want to help Gary. We did hire a managing broker because we didn't want to manage it ourselves. Becky already manages another one of my companies. So we did hire a managing broker for that as well. That's how I run all my businesses, guys. So that's why I'm a business consultant, is because I believe in this as a business more than I believe in, like, I should say believe in, but like, I don't really enjoy real estate as much as I enjoy business.
So you do invest though, like in Lake and Porter County, right? Not just.
Oh, sure. Lake, Porter, LaPorte. I mean, our market is.
How far do you go up, like, into Indiana?
LaPorte County is about as far as I really. Okay. That's as far as we manage as well too. Like.
And then as far as lending, you do the lend in different cities, obviously.
I lend in 13 states.
Okay.
Right now, so it's mostly going to be Midwest and Southeast. Is going to be most of the states that I'm going to lend in.
Okay.
And I'll lend in Michigan. I will not lend in Illinois. I will not lend in California.
Mm-hmm.
Why not Illinois?
I will not lend in Illinois. Honestly, to be honest, if you want the real truth, I just don't believe in the state. I believe that they're more bankrupt than California, and I see a lot of long-term business moving away. And I think the smart business honestly is moving away from the, that's just my opinion, so, it's happening fast. I mean, if you think about California, California is losing Senate and House seats because they're losing so much population. I mean, it's a real, this is real. This is no longer like this talk. People are moving. There's a reason why when you come into Indiana, you see signs that say, "Are you going to yet?" I didn't put the signs there. I'm just saying that they're there. So that's just me. Just me. All right. So if you guys want my information, thank you guys for coming again. And honestly, I'm being honest. If somebody does want to start a meetup group, like, I don't care. We can talk about private lending. We can talk about property management. We can talk about acquisitions, wholesaling, fix and flips, finishes, design. I don't really, crypto, I don't really care. I'm all for help starting a meetup group. I just don't want to be that person that like has to get here, has to set up, has to market it, and get everybody's butts in the seats. And that's just, it's a lot more work than people think than just showing up and like, even today, this was, I didn't have to do much, but even today, it was like, I was like taking chairs in here, getting everything set up, making sure that AV's working, making sure we get on Facebook Live. You know, there's a little bit more that goes into this than most people think. And, you know, when you're in a situation like I am, I love being here. I really do. I mean, I spoke last week to 2,000 people. I do enjoy this. I love masterminding. If somebody wants to meet me for lunch, my treat. Like I'll even buy. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the camaraderie. But I just don't. I don't want to be the person that is in charge of making it happen. Does that make sense? So, and there's really not enough money in it.
It makes sense.
There's just not enough money in it as well.
No, it doesn't make sense.
What doesn't make sense?
It intrigues me that you're an outstanding speaker. Okay, this is a very nice place. Okay, it's not some ugly panel type place that smells. And you do not have a monthly meeting, and you stood there and told everybody that you're interested in Gary. You need help. You need another 50 or 100 people that want to invest in Gary. Or if you could start with a house.
Why don't you start a meetup group, and I'll let you have the place.
We'll talk.
Honestly, that's what I'm at with it. Like, you do have to understand, so I travel about 2 or 3 times a month, and I am speaking at a location. I'm part of several family office groups.
Yeah, but you train people.
Well, yes, I'm just saying, like, that's the reason why. Everybody that works for me is busy doing something. So, yes, sir.
Your mastermind you have here in the area.
I don't have a mastermind anymore. I stopped in 2020, partly because of COVID, partly just because I wanted to focus I was spending 60% of my time in this education business, and I really wanted to focus on what I know how to do good, which is acquire right, fix and flip. And I started my second market in Pensacola, and I started the lending company, and we're starting you know what I mean? So I kind of just shifted my focus away from the mastermind. Again, I would even start the mastermind at the beginning. Honestly, I would. If somebody else would say, hey, let me partner with you. Let me be a part of, like, I'll work with you. I'll be the salesman. You know, all you have to do is, like, you got to sit here with your experience, and, you know, I can promote. If that's, somebody wants to do that, like, you've been part of my mastermind. Pretty high quality. Like, I still remember his dad getting up in the front of the mastermind when Doug was part of the mastermind. He's like, this just reminds me of why I got in business and what I need to do in my own business to get back at adding value first.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, guys. I know we went on a little bit longer than probably expected. I want to give everybody time to network and